Early returns great on the San Francisco 49ers 2024 draft class. We're going into the secondary. What does the film say about how second-round cornerback Renardo Green and fourth-round safety Malik Mustafa are playing for the San Francisco 49ers? Mid-season review right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thank you so much for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The everydayers already know. New listeners, welcome. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Croc, a phenomenal rookie class so far for the San Francisco 49ers. Finally seeing the first-round wide receiver Ricky Pearsall on the field as well. Got his first catch a couple weeks ago. Jacob Cowan got his first catch a couple weeks ago. He's been returning punts for a while for the 49ers. And a lot of snaps for Ricky Pearsall in the last couple of games with all the injuries at wide receiver. But I think we want to focus, and obviously Dominic Puni. I mean, he's not going to get the award because he's not a quarterback. He's not a wide receiver, running back. But Dominic Puni should be in the top 5 for rookie of the year in the NFL. That's how good Dominic Puni has been playing so far this year. So we got to make sure we give credit to the big men because they don't get enough credit, Croc, around the league, especially from fans. There's no fantasy stats for offensive linemen. There's no fancy touchdown dances or anything. Maybe Puni needs to start dancing over guys, pancake a guy, and do some gritty. I don't know what it is. Please, not the gritty, not the dab. Those are dead. Let's find something new for Dominic Puni to get his name out there.
There's some offensive linemen that have performed extremely well over the last few years. The center that was drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs was Creed Humphreys.
Yep.
He was really good. The tackle that was drafted to the Los Angeles Chargers, he was really good. These are guys that are making like all pro and still, even with Creed Humphreys, I want to say Creed Humphreys, right? All pro as a rookie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. Left-handed snapper, which is why teams like maybe the 49ers passed on him in the draft. For some reason, you can't be a left-handed catcher and you can't be a left-handed center. I don't know.
So how are you an all pro? And I'm going to Google this to make sure just in case. But if he was all pro, and I'm pulling it up right now, I just need to know. Let's see, accolades, 2-time Super Bowl champion, ouch. Second team all pro 2022. Okay, so he wasn't an all pro as a rookie, which was 2021, but he was an all pro 2022, and he's been a Pro Bowler the last couple years. But playing as well as he did, like, how do you not get rookie of the year?
I mean, you just can't. You don't get those awards as an offensive lineman. You just don't. And maybe that's why Chris Foerster, the 49ers offensive line coach, talked after the draft when everybody's asking about, hey, why didn't you draft a tackle? Why didn't you draft this? He was like, well, you want to take the guys that get the ball in their hands first. And it was like, all right, that's the organizational philosophy, I guess. And they found themselves a gem, though. Right guard Dominic Puni has been phenomenal. But we're going to talk about the defensive backs. Croc, former professional cornerback cover guy. This is your wheelhouse. You've done a lot of film work before you were even my co-host here. I always had you on because you were the expert talking about draft prospects and breaking down DBs and wide receivers. And so I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit. Now I got some really good numbers here, and I'm going to give my takes from what I've seen from the film. But I'm really interested to see what you saw when you put on the film, especially when someone like Renardo Green, we're going to start there, 49ers second round pick, didn't play a lot early in the year and started getting a little bit more playing time, and then was the highest graded rookie in the entire NFL last week against the Dallas Cowboys. So when you put on the film, Croc, what did you see from Renardo Green?
First, I want to talk about kind of that transition from college to the NFL because it wasn't something that I was super aware of until I got to the league, and I understood that it's not even so much about how talented you are, but how talented you are as well as being able to apply the playbook. and understand how fast things happen. As a defense in general, you are reacting to everything that the offense does, especially for defensive back. The receivers moving forward, you're kind of moving backwards. You have to mirror the movement skills of the receivers. So even for cornerbacks, but defense in general, everything is reactionary. So I know for most fans, they don't look at it this way, but the 49ers, they do a lot of pre-snap motions, right? A lot of motions, moving this guy. They'll motion one guy over, then have another guy come out the backfield, and then they'll have him motion, and then he sets up here. Then every time an offensive player moves, the defender has to make an adjustment to how he's playing whatever coverage or technique. So for a lot of young cornerbacks, I think that's the biggest hurdle. It's not just being able to line up and play man to man. It's all right, if I am in man, but then this guy motions here, all right, how does that change my responsibility? Or if I'm in zone, how does it change my responsibility if it's a bunch, right? Now, if they're bunched and I'm in cover 3, then how do I play it? As opposed to if I'm in a fire zone cover 3, there's differences. And you have to know the difference between when you line up in there in a bunch. Okay, I got to play it like this. Then if they motion one of the guys away, do I count the running back in the package of these two guys? And how does that change things? So a lot of times that makes guys have to play a little bit slower. I will say, watching Renardo Green and the way the 49ers were utilizing not just him, but just the defensive backs in general, it seems like they're trying to simplify things a little bit. There is, and I noticed in the game, and I actually tweeted it, but you definitely notice it when you're watching film as well. This might be, I don't watch a whole lot of other NFL defenses, but there's a lack of pre-snap movement by defensive backs and post-snap movement by defensive backs. So a lot of times how I watch Renardo Green line up or Charvarius Ward, they would line up in a coverage, and I'm thinking like, okay, they're going to change their alignment, or you're going to see a guy start off and it's going to look like, single high, then boom, a guy safety bails to having to cover a deep half, and then the corners look like they're playing off, and then they come down and they're playing hard flats. You don't see any of that. It's just line up and play this cover 4. And I've seen a lot of fans kind of talk about how 49ers, like, they're playing too much man coverage. There's not a whole lot of man on film that I watch, and maybe that's a Cowboys specific scheme. How you play things can definitely change based on who you're playing. Last week, high school football, we played Kimball out of Tracy. They're going to run a little power, a lot of 21 personnel. They want to run their dives, run their tosses, right? So we had to defend that a certain way. This week, we play Lodi High School, who runs a drastically different offense than Kimball. They run more of the veer. Now we've had to change our approach. And I think for the 49ers, maybe that's what they were doing versus the Cowboys, but they really just lined up in it, played off, and just reacted. And seldomly I would see them in man, and we're going to talk about Renardo Green and what that looked like. But I thought in general it was very interesting to see how simple the 49ers made things, not just for Renardo Green, but I think for the defense and defensive backs as a whole.
I actually have those coverage rates for the San Francisco 49ers, not game specific, but do you remember we referenced these earlier on in the season after the first 3 weeks, I think, or so? I've got the coverage rates for every team in the NFL, including the San Francisco 49ers, through 8 weeks now of the NFL season. And the 49ers started out playing, there was like a lot of cover 1 and a little bit more man. It was a little bit more 2-man. And they've definitely started to play more zone than man since then, Croc. And now they've gotten to the point where it's almost an even split between 25% cover 1 man, 25% cover 3, and 25% cover 4. So almost that, and that's 75% basically of their coverages now. Cover 1, cover 3, cover 4, and about a third of the time each one of those. And then they're mixing in a couple, 2% cover 0. It's like, what is it, 9% cover 6, I think, and then a little cover 2 in there as well.
Yeah. Well, definitely wasn't a whole lot of cover 2 with Renardo Green out there. And it was very interesting, just again, how they kind of utilize these guys. I would say right away, the thing that jumped off the screen, he's 100% your nickel corner, but not your nickel in the slot, your nickel package corner. He's coming in on the outside, Diamador Lenore sliding inside, and obviously you have Travarius Ward on the other outside. They were very comfortable with doing that. I felt like they didn't have to change things up. Like, oh man, Renardo Green is in. We're going to have to hide him a little bit, or we're going to have to change how we do things. Nope. They just kind of played their coverage, whether it was quarters, whether it was cover 3, which I feel like I saw more just quarters and man. But I thought Renardo Green did a really good job with whatever they were asking. And there were some cool things to see with areas he lining up in the slot, having to run a vertical with Jalen Tolbert, receiver out of South Alabama, and running stride for stride with him. And there were times where he was matched up with CeeDee Lamb, and I got to watch him impress, and how he did a really good job of being comfortable in press man, running with him a little bit more comfortable than I think he is playing off. So I know I can't wait to get to that. We'll talk about that on the next segment.
Yeah. I want to get into that stuff too, because that was the big thing coming out of college. It's like good in press man, but what about the rest of it? Because the Niners might not play a lot of press man. So we'll get into more of the scouting report, what it looked like so far through halfway through the season, most of it from the last game, because he hasn't played a lot until the last 3 weeks of the season. I want to talk Malik Mustafa as well next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. And our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being passionate about football isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. Fan is short for fanatic after all, right? It takes a lot of energy to power through all day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, and agonizing overtimes, which is why they've created the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who are first in the parking lot, who are last to leave. We see you out there, and that flavor is just for you. A little Fan Fuel, and drinking the Fan Fuel, drinking a 5 Hour Energy Shot. It gives you that same feeling as when you see a George Kittle rumbling 43 yards, making plays after the catch, and then he drops the little first down celebration thing. It's like bloop. That feeling right there, that's when the 5 Hour Energy Shot hits. That's what it feels like. So 5 Hour Energy knows no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires talent, soul, heart, and a whole lot of energy, whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, you're for getting ready for game day, and your to-do list is maybe a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stay in the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What is your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. All right, so back to that point, and it's Renardo Green. Just looking at the whole scouting report for Renardo Green and seeing where the 49ers drafted him, and he was like snubbed for the Senior Bowl, which is usually where first and second round corners go that aren't maybe early draft entries that don't even go at all to the postseason stuff because they already know they're going to be big time picks. He put down good workouts. He has length. He has size. He has a body of work to look at. He was kind of overlooked in the draft process now that you think about it. Now that you look back at how he's played early in his career, he wasn't even invited to the Senior Bowl. He was a Shrine Game guy because that's usually more mid-round day 3 types. And so I'm wondering why he fell, because the tape was good, especially being able to play man. And that's what gets you drafted in the NFL, Croc, being able to play man, played a lot of press man, and played it really well. The film was great. His best game maybe against the top 5 wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, right? But the only question we had was, okay, maybe a little less comfortable playing off. What's he going to look like in zone? What's he going to look like when he's asked to play off, which the 49ers do a lot. So what did you see on that front, Croc?
I'm trying to decipher between, is this a 49er thing or a Renardo Green thing? And I think in general, the 49ers play their quarters coverage very, very soft. It was almost like if Cowboys kind of wanted the 8-yard comebacks all night, and until the 49ers made an adjustment, they could have had it. A lot of off coverage, a lot of almost felt like they just keep everything in front of you. Don't give up the deep play. Don't give up the deep ball. Don't allow explosive plays vertically down the field, but go ahead, bail out, stay on top of the routes, squeeze them if they in break. And I think he did have I think he does a good job of anticipating in breaking routes, which I think is key. Those are some of the more difficult routes to defend, but he had a good feel for it. And maybe I don't know if he's able to, read between the one receiver and two receiver and say, okay, two did this, so one has to be doing this, and have a good feel for it that way. That can help you be a little bit more anticipatory with the way that you're covering these receivers. But he did a really good job at that. But anything that was kind of more so on the outside, stop routes, things like that, I feel like kind of play this soft and just keep things in front of you. But it almost looks like, because if you look on the other side, I think Travarius Ward plays it exactly the same. There's a play that some of you guys might remember in that game where CeeDee Lamb, he ran 10-yard stop or so. He kind of ran it close to the sticks and he caught the ball. And as he's in the air, Travarius Ward kind of shoves him and he ends up kind of going past the sticks the other way, but they still marked it his forward progress as a first down. That happened earlier in the game. When you watch that play on film, it's it's third down. They're likely running a stick route, and Travarius Ward was more focused on keeping the play in front of them and just not allowing a go ball. So that may be something that they're being taught, as opposed to something that, oh, he can't do this or he can't do that. Ideally, if it was one of my guys, I would tell him, yeah, let's keep things in front of us. Let's, okay, want to play us off if that's what you guys want to do. Don't allow the explosive plays because those are really backbreaking. But we also have to play down the distance. So if it is a situation where it's 3rd and 8, and we got to start having a feel for either a stop route or an in breaking route, something right around the sticks, and be able to really challenge the receiver at the catch point. So I don't think that's just a Renardo Green thing. I wonder if that's just what they're being taught, and he's going out there and executing it the way that they want him to.
You remember last year, Steve Wilkes said something to the effect after one of the games is that they needed to play zone a little tighter. Like when it's time to cover somebody in your zone, to cover those guys a little bit tighter. And they were a little bit loose and letting a few too many receptions and too much space in their defense and their coverages. And so I wonder if that kind of goes along with the same principles. That's kind of how they teach it. Stay over the top. But don't jump on the double moves and things like that. So that's really interesting. And you see a lot of that, and it is frustrating sometimes, especially when they're able to make a play at the sticks and the team's able to get a first down. We're like, come on, where you at? But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you're staying over the top and you're not getting hit with big plays either, which is the way every team, that's just the way the league is going right now, Croc. Teams don't want to give up big plays. They want to stay on top. They want to have too high and then come downhill. And they're allowing some of the underneath stuff a little bit more than maybe they did in the past.
And again, there were times where they did challenge them, but I felt like the times that they challenged the Cowboys more was when they went man coverage. And they went man with a single high, and it's like, all right, you're going to play man. Because there were several times when I watched Renardo Green or I watched Diamador Lenore have to cover receivers vertically out of man coverage, press alignment, and I thought they did a terrific job of doing that. So I don't know if it's me having, I don't know, wishful thinking, or do I want the 49ers defense to be even better? But early in the season, you talked about them running a little bit more man coverage, and now it's kind of split between 25%, 25%, 25%. I would probably try to get a little bit more of an uptick on that man coverage, because it seems like they have the guys. Renardo Green, he looks ready. He looks ready. He looks good to go. He has a good feel for what's going on, and he's much more comfortable in just press alignment. And now keeping things in front of him, he looks comfortable playing off, but is he not as comfortable just challenging himself? And again, that might be just the scheme of the 49ers. But overall, I thought he did a lot of really good things. And I didn't see anything that was like, had the quick twitch. There's going to be some certain receivers that really give him a problem, or, oh man, he just can't run vertical with guys. And the Cowboys, they don't have the fastest receivers. Tolbert is a 4.49 guy. CeeDee Lamb, a 4.5 guy. So it's not like they were blazers. Maybe if they had Brandon Cooks out there, you would maybe see how he reacted versus a little bit more speed. But overall, I didn't see issues with how he covered guys vertically, whether it was in off coverage or in press man.
Physical, competitive. I think that's the overriding thing I've been so impressed about with this draft class for the 49ers. All these guys, and maybe that's, returns on, what do you think, Croc? draft older prospects, right? Trey Lance, 1 year. Brock Purdy, 5 years in college. Which one was better? Well, the guy who played a lot came in and played like he's played a lot, and the other guy didn't. Niners have a bunch of 24-year-old rookies now. Renardo Green played a lot of ball. Ricky Pearsall played a lot of ball. Dominic Puni was in college for, I think, 6 years, a couple different schools, played a lot of positions. Came in, ain't no thing. And they were competitive right away. And you don't see that a lot. And we've seen it from every single guy now.
You are seeing it, at least for the 49ers. Now, the tough thing for those guys, and even for the 49ers, as far as your investment, it might be more of a 4 to 6 year investment, as opposed to some other guys who are getting drafted at 21 years old. Let's say like DK Metcalf, and he's still with Seattle. How many contracts will DK get with Seattle? Like you're getting a lot of prime years being drafted at 21 years old. And by the time he was getting to his second contract, the 49ers guys are just getting drafted at that same age. So, maybe you end up spending more money on guys if you're drafting them a little bit younger, but you get more of their prime years. So for the 49ers, I think for them, especially with these guys, it's making sure that their prime years count. When you have the Deebo Samuel, because Deebo was an older prospect. He was 24 years old in his rookie season. So now you're starting to see, like, is it possible that Deebo's maybe lost a step? I still think he's terrific. I think he's a good football player. But are we seeing a Deebo that maybe isn't quite what he was when he came into the league? And I think that there is a conversation for that. That's what you potentially run into when you draft these guys are a little bit older, even though it feels like Deebo was just drafted a couple years ago.
Yeah, Kittle too. I mean, he's already number 3 on the 49ers all-time receiving list, and he's in his 30s. He was an older prospect as well. I think he's going to be 32, I think, pretty soon here. It's like, wow, George Kittle already? He's in his 30s, he's in his twilight of his career, which is kind of wild to think about. But you got to be good first, right? And look, a lot of the rookies this year are the same age as Trey Lance, the part of his high school draft class, and he was drafted in 2021. So, as long as you're good, it's awesome. You get an extra contract out of a guy, but you got to be good first. And the 49ers rookie class is good.
Oh, they've done a terrific job with this class, and I don't think that you could have asked for more contribution from this class early on, and guys, again, that have helped contribute to winning. And I know right now 49ers sitting at 4-4 at the bye week, but with the way that these younger guys have played, and there are some hiccups. We'll talk about that when we get to Malik Mustafa, but overall, there's a lot of good to take away from how these guys have played more times than not.
Let's get into the Malik Mustafa rookie season. He's played a little bit more than Renardo Green, some ups and some downs. PFF doesn't like him so much. We'll get into the PFF grades as well next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you in part by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get ready to tackle some NFL action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you want to check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, you can find it all in the same place where you're placing your bets, on the app or at FanDuel.com, and maybe be informed to the next bets you want to play. Live in-game betting on NFL games, so much fun. We got the NBA and NHL going now, World Series, and all of it you can find and get in on the action at FanDuel, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The final segment of today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Built Rewards. Listen up, renters. Ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month you pay rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points toward a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem toward a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Earn points by paying rent now when you join Built joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl, joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use this URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl to start earning points with your rent payments today.
Hey, Peacock, I kind of teed up that we'd be talking about Renardo Green today, and I got a comment on Twitter that made me kind of think a little bit. And I was like, you know what? Not bad. Shout out to Borna. I don't know. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Hamadani. All right, but he said he's looking forward to this episode, and he said, "Thank God the Chiefs took Kingsley Suamataia and left us Renardo Green. Pairing Renardo Green with McDuffie and Spags coaching would have been scary, and I think it would have, because I think the way that Renardo Green plays definitely aligns with how Spags consistently calls coverage, even more so than what the 49ers have done with Renardo Green. So I think you could have even seen a more polarizing version of Renardo if he was with Kansas City.
Yeah, I could see that fit. Absolutely. And that's the 20 versus 24-year-old thing too. True junior, Kingsley Suamataia, not a finished product. Earned the starting job for the Chiefs right away. Kind of got benched. He's got some things to work on. I think he's still going to be a really good player. There's a lot of people right now that are in our mentions saying, hey, the Niners need to trade for a right tackle. Well, that's how you got to find one. You got to, there's not that many dudes talented enough to play offensive tackle, starting tackle in the NFL that have that ability. So you got to draft and develop one. When are the 49ers going to do that? I don't know, but they're definitely happy with their choice right now in the second round of Kingsley Suamataia. By the way, did you see who was the second highest graded rookie in week 8?
I did not. Let me see. Your guy.
My boy Johnny Newton.
Yeah.
He's going to be really good. Yeah, he's over those foot issues. And I was talking about John Allen from the Washington Commanders. They are, but he had a torn pec. He's done for the year. I didn't realize. I knew he was hurt, but I didn't know he was done for the year. So Johnny Newton's got that starting job now, and he was awesome. So yeah, that could have been the Niners' first 2 picks. But I think they like Ricky Pearsall as well. And, the depth is hurting right now at wide receiver. So things working out for the 49ers draft class as currently constructed. Renardo Green, the highest graded rookie in the entire NFL last week in week 8 with a 91.4 grade. He's got a 79.1 grade altogether. He was phenomenal against the Seahawks. That was really when he got his first, most of his first. He had probably 25 total snaps or something like that before the Seahawks game. Then he got 71 snaps against the Seahawks. And obviously they were slinging it a lot. He had an interception. He caused another interception that Malik Mustafa ended up coming down with, right? Cutting in front of Tyler Lockett, I think it was, on the crosser. So Renardo Green's made some big plays now. And what's funny is it dawned on me when you were talking about this, the man versus zone stuff. And early in the season, when they were playing more man, defenses were really targeted a couple of guys on the team. Namely, it was Isaac Yiadom at the time and Campbell, the linebacker. I wonder if that's why, because if they play zone, you can't target one player as easily as you can when you're playing man. But if Renardo Green's out there and locking guys down, maybe that gives them an opportunity to kind of lean back into more man coverage if they trust everybody. Because Ward, Green, the way he's played early, and DeAndre Lenore, I mean, not many teams go that good 3 deep with their cornerbacks.
Right. And you talk about playing zone and kind of trying to hide guys. Campbell couldn't hide from CeeDee Lamb. It's crazy. I'm watching the game and I see CeeDee Lamb motion from left to right. It might have been on their first drive. And I said, oh man, CeeDee Lamb is matched up over Campbell. So regardless, like if whatever your zone is, the Cowboys are going to manipulate how the spacing goes. And CeeDee Lamb had a choice route. Campbell just a tad bit too slow, tried to get underneath it, got his hand up there, but wasn't quite close enough.
That's a tough ask. I mean, CD on any linebacker, even if it's Fred Warner, or any linebacker on any wide receiver, that is a tough ask. You're right. So, hey, maybe man coverage. Just lock these guys.
CeeDee Lamb was a tough task for the 49ers secondary as well. And I talked about, some of the things that happened with some of these young guys, Renardo Green in coverage, and we watched Brown pick Renardo Green off. All right.
Yeah.
Jair Brown kind of ran into him. We talked a little bit about that. Guys maybe playing at different levels, but it just can't happen. All right. But knocked him off and easy touchdown for CeeDee Lamb. The first one, though, I didn't quite know exactly what happened, and I had to go back and I'm watching the film. And first, let's start with our guy, Renardo Green. He was guarding in the slot, did a terrific job getting hands on. I want to say it was number 9, the return guy.
Yeah.
Did a really good job running across the field with him. But the Cowboys basically did some mesh. All right. So you had two guys going this way, climbing up a little bit. And then you had CeeDee Lamb going from right to left through the coverage. Now, on that side, you had it was kind of a twins, but one of the guys was Ezekiel Elliott. So it's like, all right, we're lock him. But Travarius Ward, you see the communication going on. This is where I try not to guess too much because you never know how guys are being told to play or what their communication was. But what it looked like for me was it was man coverage. The guys on the left side did a terrific job. Ward and Malik Mustafa, it looked like the communication, and they communicated for a few seconds. Like you could see them making sure they're sorting it out. And Ward was outside shade. So that lets me know they're going to kind of banjo this. So, hey, if CeeDee Lamb goes across, you run with him. If he comes out, I'll take him and lock him up. Well, CeeDee Lamb ran across. So you could see Malik Mustafa start to run with him. And for some reason, I don't know why, he kind of had like this brain malfunction in the middle of it. There was a lot of traffic, which is what the Cowboys wanted. And CeeDee Lamb coming through the traffic. And within that traffic, Malik Mustafa basically just started covering someone else who was already like, there was tight coverage on the receiver. He started helping on, and I think he was supposed to run all the way across the field with CeeDee Lamb, and he just didn't do it. So it wasn't like the easiest of things to do, but he definitely made it way worse than what it had to be.
Yeah, because obviously Lamb didn't get covered at all. And I thought it was on Ward because it looked like man. And it was like, well, why doesn't Ward follow him across the field? So that was the communication. And so
and you can clearly see them. You see them going like this, hands up, like, hey, what we doing? And you see the hands like, all right. Then you saw Ward outside shade, and Mustafa started going with him. And then he just randomly just stopped and doubled a guy who was already in tight coverage.
So Malik Mustafa, he's got a 62.2 grade. It's the 12th highest grade on the 49ers football team. So it's not a bad grade. This isn't like Madden where everyone's in the 80s and you know, the 70s, a bad grade. So he's actually graded just a hair above Jair Brown. They're both very similar with their grades this year in the secondary. And for a safety, that's key. Communication, right? I think it's probably pretty difficult, probably more difficult to be a rookie safety in the NFL than maybe a rookie corner, because you have to know more about what's going on, and you're in the middle of the field and you're the last line of defense in a lot of cases. And we saw it with Patrick Mahomes missing Worthy. Worthy's just going by the safeties, going by Malik Mustafa. Is like, oh no. And the way PFF grades is plus or minus, even though that was an incomplete pass, did he get a minus grade on a play where he let Worthy behind him? And so you don't know exactly how the grades come together and which plays were pluses and minuses, because PFF doesn't care if it was hit or not. If you made a good play or a bad play, you're going to get a good grade or a bad grade on it. And so 20 tackles so far on the year. He's got a 19.4 missed tackle percentage, which is one of the highest on the team. It's actually third highest. The highest on the team is Nick Bosa, missing 30%. He's missing almost a third of his tackles. That's not great. But Nick Bosa's grade is off the charts. Him and Fred Warner both in the 90s right now for the 49ers. So studly grades there for the 49ers. But Malik Mustafa, he made the interception we talked about. He's a true thumper. He comes up and makes hits. I think he's been really good. I think he's made some mistakes, though. Maybe that touchdown is one of them. Maybe that was on him. But what have you seen from Malik Mustafa when you watched him play this year? And I know you had some thoughts on him. We wanted to get to him last week, but today's a good time.
Oh, man, I've been impressed with a lot of things that, not just him, but him, Renardo Green, those two guys together have been involved in a lot of coverage plays. Talk about against Seattle Seahawks, Renardo Green, great coverage, forces the throw to sail a little bit because of his coverage and having to throw a perfect ball. Mustafa is the beneficiary of it, picks off a pass. In this game, you see Mustafa come in, boom, hit a guy, then Green comes in, boom, they force a fumble in the red zone. Obviously, the 49ers didn't recover it, but just watching those two guys work together, that's awesome. There's been some other things that have really stood out And Mustafa has done some things so good with running the alley, staying home if he's backside and taking away the counter from opposing teams, and how he comes up and how he can be 10, 11, 12 yards off and still make a tackle at the line of scrimmage. It is very, very impressive. I understand that there may be some concerns with some of the missed tackles that he's had, and you hope that he cleans that up, maybe playing just a little too fast. But when he sees it and diagnoses it and goes, it looks so good. It looks so good. Again, the teach tape for my young guys. I'm sending clips of Mustafa left and right to my high school kids. Like, all right, look how he did this. Look how he stayed here, and then look how he runs his alley. And then does he go high on the tackle? My guys, they think they're gonna like hit stick everybody. Then guys bounce off of them. No, you got to go low. Shoot for that hip. You see him do that extremely well. So Mustafa, a lot of times is forced to make tackles in space, and I think because of that, you will see some misses, right? Like, how many times do you see safeties just tackling guys where there's a bunch of people around them? That's why it's so surprising with Nick Bosa's missed tackle rate, because like Bosa, fam, like you usually have a lot of help. There's guys all around you. So how are you missing it? But with guys like Mustafa, when it gets to him having to make a tackle a lot of times in space, hopefully you can slow guys down, and then your help comes and makes tackles. That would be awesome. But there's been a lot of positive, I think, more so in the run game for him. But I think in the passing game, he's coming along, and he clearly has the ability. I think we were all surprised, especially me, with Talanoa Hufanga. Some of the things he did at, with his rookie year and second year in coverage, like, wow, you didn't see quite that movement, skill, and ability, but man, maybe the instincts are just off the charts. Then you saw teams start targeting him a certain way. Even in his all-pro year, he didn't finish a strong second half of the season. And I think it's going to be hard for him to take this job from some of these younger guys, because I think there's just a little bit higher upside in different ways that you could utilize them in space and in coverage. So I've been very impressed with Mustafa. Again, more so his ability in the run game, but the coverage ability and understanding is there. But like I noted when we first started this, there's a lot going through these defensive backs' heads. Matter of fact, I remember being asked, "Hey, Croc, can you play safety?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can play safety." Then I got in the meeting rooms with Rex Ryan and those guys, and I'm like, "No, there's no way I could play safety. There's just too much that you're literally the quarterback of the defense. They put too much on the safeties from a mental standpoint." So I'm pretty sure that Mustafa is still thinking a lot out there. And as he continues to gain this experience, we're talking about the first half of his rookie year, I think there's a lot of bright spots for him to continue to build off of.
Yep, I love it, and yeah, it's the PFF grade's the same as far as the split between run and pass defenses. His run defense grade much higher than his pass defense grade. The way he runs,
I don't ever think he'll be Jimmy Ward. Like, Jimmy Ward, he could come up, make tackles. He was terrific in coverage. You could do so many different things with him. I think he expanded what you're able to do defensively, being able to play him in the slot. He can guard tight ends. He can guard Cooper Kupp. He could do so much. He'll probably never be that, but I don't think he'll just be a big-time liability on the back end.
Oh yeah, I love what I've seen from Malik Mustafa. Man, the thump, that run in the alley. I mean, it's instantaneous. Kyle Shanahan talked about it. He said some guys, it takes them a couple steps. You break down before you make your tackle. He's like, no, it's just one step. He runs right directly through the guy, and it's just it's pretty fun to watch. And how quickly he gets there and closes that door is awesome. So great returns. Love the DBs. Love the 49ers rookie class so far. We'll break down more of them. We'll break down more of the San Francisco 49ers during the bye week as we get ready for week 10. Maybe do a little mailbag on tomorrow's episode. Let us know what you guys want to hear about. At BD Peacock, at Crocky209. Drop a question in the YouTube comments, and Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.